there, my name is Adam Josie. I'm just doing a quick video on the fitting of a Truma Saphir Comfort RC unit to the Caravan here that we've got here. So this is mine and my wife's Caravan, and Coachman Pastiche 575 Caravan. We're in Ireland, down in County Carlow, but we're planning this summer to go over to Spain, to Salou, with the Caravan, and for that trip we've decided to go out and invest in a Truma Saphir Comfort RC unit. So I did a bit of research on the internet and looked at all the different availability of air conditioning systems for Caravan. One of the challenges that we have is the construction of this particular Caravan is something called an ABC, so it's an advanced bonded constructed Caravan. The challenge with that is it is fantastic in terms of being water sealed, etc., but it has actually a slightly weaker roof, so we're not able to fit onto the roof a rooftop air conditioning unit. So I had to look through in terms of options to be able to fit an AC unit on the ground floor, preferably under the bed or under the storage units. So as I said, a lot of research was done. What I found was this particular Truma system. This is the RC Comfort, as I said earlier. It actually allows us to connect into the actual heating system that's already fitted to the Caravan. So this Caravan has a 320 high efficiency gas boiler fitted to it, all through to a control panel there, and using an extra purchase, which was only £10 sterling extra, as a network cable that allows us to connect to the Truma iNet Ready system, allows us to link straight into the actual control panel of the Caravan, so that what will happen is the high efficiency 3020 gas boiler will work in sync with the air conditioning, and actually they'll complement each other in terms of heating and cooling as well. So when you want to cool down, it will automatically cut out the heating system, and when you want to heat up, it will use both the gas system and also the hot blower on this to heat up the Caravan faster. So just going to give you a quick run through of the system. So that's the network cable. So the unit is relatively heavy, okay, so I believe it's just shy of 25 kg. The unit itself is 240 volts, so you'll only be able to use this once it's connected to the mains on the Caravan. You can see the mains is connected there. One recommendation I'd make here is that to get an electrician to actually fix the electrical connection. So my plan is to basically get everything in as much as possible, and then look at the options to connect it to the actual Caravan consumer's unit. The unit itself here, so you have all your connections at the top here. This is where the network port, etc., comes in. These are the three outputs for blowing the cold air out, so it has three outputs that you connect through. This is the intake, so this takes in the warm air. The unit is in polystyrene, it has a strap around it, and if you just flip it over, what I will have to do is I'll have to cut holes in the floor of the Caravan, so you have essentially an output here and an output here, so we have to use the template that comes with the guide. So just talking through what comes with the actual unit. So we have, when you purchase it, you get a grill that basically fits on the outside to basically suck the air into the unit. There's multiple of these corners that you use, these plastic corners for the fittings, etc., of the pipe work. In the Caravan, in the shower, there's a whole load of pipe work that comes with it. Then you have all your different fittings for the actual Caravan itself. These go in and basically where your outputs are and your pipe clips, etc. That all comes with the kit. And further to this, there's also a sensor. This is basically the IR sensor and the temperature sensor that we need to fit with a long cable on as well. So we need to find a good suitable location for that. Now in terms of extras, I mentioned earlier on, I purchased a network cable extra, so that was just shy of £10 sterling. That's a 6 metre network cable, so I can connect the unit from the bed under the Caravan into the gas boiler that's fitted just behind here, so they go in from underneath, so I can have both working in sync. What I had to get extra, so if you read the instructions, it does say that you need to get some sealant. This is to basically be able to correctly seal these together, essentially. So just went on to Amazon. This is Everflex Firemate, and you have to get sort of a heat graded one, because this will be a hot system as well as a cold system, so you need to have that flexibility of going cold and hot. Also, what you need to get hold of is, in the instructions, there's a 70mm wood cutter, so one of those there. So you need a 770mm for the pipe work, and in addition to the 770mm one, you also need to get hold of a 50mm one. Again, you can get these on Amazon, so 50mm wood cutter, so that's just to basically be able to fit through all the pipe work, etc. In the box as well comes a remote control. So this is the actual AC unit. So this is a remote control that allows you to control the AC unit through that IR sensor there. But as I said, with the iNet system as well that I've got, I should be able to also control the air conditioning through the main unit as well. So it will work in tandem together with the gas system, which I'm quite pleased to do and have. And then lastly, there's just some fitting pieces here that come in the box. So there's a couple of brackets to be able to fix the unit in place on the floor, a couple of grills to basically protect from mice and rodents, etc., getting up in the caravan. So this is where you're going to cut in the bottom, and at the bottom this sort of is a protector grill. And then lastly, there's a big template that comes there that you put on the floor and be able to mark up where you need to cut the caravan in terms of making those holes. So there you go, there's a quick overview of all the bits that come within in the box. It should give you guys a good understanding of what you're going to get with the kit. I actually bought this unit over in the UK rather than Ireland. It was significantly cheaper to get it over in the UK. With all the pipes and kitting, etc., it was just shy of 1,500 sterling delivered, so £1,500 delivered. And you know, came with all the kit and in the shower, as I said earlier on, all the pipework, etc. is in there. It was a company called PB Electrics. I'll put a link in the comment to them. They were the best people to deal with, really good on email, just talking through, and all came through really well packaged, etc., on a small little pallet, a little dinky pallet, but really pleased with this. So I'm going to go through and basically show you how I'm going to fit this. Okay. So just before I start doing the actual fitting here, I'm just going to give you a quick high-level overview of the actual caravan. So as I said, this is a Coachman Pastiche 575. It's got the island bed. Modifications done so far on it. Well, the future thing is going to be the air conditioning, as we spoke about. I've actually added on this FEMA carry bike. So it's a Caravan XL A Pro 300, able to take 3 bikes. So we have to take my wife's bike, my bike, my daughter's bike, and then I just need to find another location for my daughter's bike, probably within the car, because she's a lot younger and a lot smaller. But this is a great caravan, so we've had this a while now. Really enjoyed it. Lovely tidy looking caravan. Just coming inside of it, the front part here is great. So you've got for the kids at the moment with their heights, because they're only 5 and 7, almost like 2 individual single beds either side, but you can convert this into a double bed at the front. Got a lovely sky window at the front there. Really great for the view out the top when you're standing up. Gives this impression of space. You've got the built-in stereo system as well coming through. So this particular caravan has an island bed that comes out and pulls forward. So there's the bed in the centre. It's got a wet heating system. So this is the control panel here that runs, and this is the one that, as I said earlier on, once I connect on, so see this greyed out ACC, once I connect it up and set up the settings in the back, that should in theory go blue, and then both things will start working in tandem together and be able to control the unit. There's a temperature sensor in the bedroom area, and there's a temperature sensor in the front, and then that additional temperature sensor will allow for better viewing of what the temperature is in control. So coming in, this is the main bedroom area. And then right at the back is a lovely big shower. I mentioned earlier on, there's all the pipework that comes with the kit. So that's what I fit, but it's got a lovely, fantastic shower there. Really nice, good bathroom, Thetford toilet, etc. in there. But no, it's a fantastic caravan. Me, my wife and my 2 kids, really, really enjoying using it. Really looking forward to taking it to Spain. We've done a few different trips around Ireland so far, on one little trip in the UK. But yeah, so there we are. So that's just a quick overview before I start cutting up the caravan. A little bit nervous about, but yeah, let's see how we get on. But ultimately, this AC conditioning unit is going to fit in under the bed here. So before we start, I'm going to pull out all the cushions, everything soft furnishing wise is all going to come out because of the dust, etc. All even at the front there, so I can get into where the boiler system is. I'm going to position the air conditioning unit down here under the bed, and then I'm going to run the pipework up here. It's going to come up, and I'm going to run through the bottom there, up and across, and I'm going to put probably a vent in somewhere here that suits. I'm going to put another unit in somewhere here, making sure that the cupboard still opens, etc. Just got to be careful of that. And then the aspiration actually is probably to run another pipe along the back, so it means cutting through at the back there the best I can, coming all the way across. And I'm looking to try and put in the third outlet basically in this cupboard, blowing that way out. So one facing this way towards the bathroom, one that side blowing in across to the front, and then one unit here. And reading the instructions there, the recommendation is to get the cold air outlets as high as possible in the Caravan. So, because hot air rises and you're pushing that cold air and the cold air sinks, and then obviously it will react with the hot and cold and cool it down. Okay, so next time I come on, we should have all the cushions out the way, all this furnishing all removed, and then we'll start talking about where we're going to cut and dice essentially to get this unit in. Okay, so a bit of tool prep here. Not sure if I'm going to use all the tools, but I just thought I'd get out a few things that I think they're going to be using for this. You might be thinking in the back of your mind, all the gear and no idea, but let's see what happens. So I've got a mains powered power drill there. That I'm going to probably use that for cutting through the wood for the vents, etc. Masking tape. The reason why I've got masking tape is the wood's like a veneer wood, and if I use the masking tape, you'll see a bit later on in the video, it will help and stop splintering by applying the masking tape and then using the wood cutter to cut. Tape measure, because I need to measure up where the holes are in terms of underneath. And then I've got my sealant gun there for the tube that I've got for sealing in things, a couple of different drills, etc. and fittings. And then here I've got a mains powered wood cutter there for just cutting the floor for the holes that need to go in. I've got my Dremel out, probably going to use the sanding discs and things like that just to tidy the job up a bit, make sure it's a bit smooth so there's no splintering, etc. Batteries on charge there, etc. I've got a pad just to roll out for underneath the Caravan, so when I get underneath I'm not getting absolutely covered in rubbish all over my back. And then in terms of the cutting, even though the Caravan's plugged in on the mains, the drill's quite heavy wattage, so's the cutter as well. Don't want to cause any issues there, so I've actually just ran from the house a mains adapter there, and I've got that ready to go for when I do the cutting there. So as I said earlier on, removed all the cushions from the Caravan itself. I've got the air conditioning system there, but that's going to be fitted under the bed there. So I've taken all that out. That's the actual heater there that we've got. So it's a 3020 high efficiency compact gas heater in this. And if I lift this up here, you'll see the connections there. So that actual black connector there that says tin bus, that's where the air conditioning system's going to connect in. So I'm going to run the cable up. So I'm going to have to find a way to get the cable up and in. This is my consumer unit here. So that's basically the mains power. So if I open up that, so that's basically everything there. So I need to work through, there's a load of covers there, so it's coming out of focus there, sorry. So yeah, so there's the mains going in there, so I just need to work through that. The system's fitted with a Truma mover, electric mover, so that's the control unit there. There's the alarm control unit, and then I actually got solar panels on the roof as well, so that's the control unit for the solar panels. It's flashing there to say the battery is fully charged on that. So yeah, coming to the back again, moved all the cushions out the way. So yeah, this is where we're going to go. I'm going to fit it in here, so we'll have a little play around with positioning, etc. I need to go under the Caravan next and just make sure that there's no obstacles, brake cables, power cables, gas cable, water pipes and all that good stuff that we're not going to cut through, etc. So that's why I've got my tape measure there. So here we go. So the next step is just lining things up and making sure things are going to be okay. So coming back here, we can see under the bed here, so there's a side entry point here to get in under the bed. So this is the plan in terms of putting the air conditioning unit under the bed. So just coming underneath the Caravan, you can see straight away there is the spare wheel there. Just line up there. You'll see the positioning of the actual unit for being able to drop the spare wheel down versus there. So at the moment, ideally where I want to position it is going to be a bit of a challenge because of the spare wheel. So I'm going to have a look to see how easy it's going to be to actually reposition the spare wheel. If I move the spare wheel over on the frame slightly, maybe to the other side, take into account that pipe work there as well, that should allow me to be able to cut through the wood underneath here. I can see there's no other electrical pipes or anything like that, so it's quite a good spot apart from that spare wheel housing there. I don't really want to have water and stuff leaking out onto the spare wheel. So next thing here I probably need to do is just look to see if I can move that spare wheel over. So underneath the Caravan here, so I've removed the spare wheel. Now there's this clamp here that's basically blocking. So up the top here is where essentially I want to position the air conditioning. I can see it's really free here of any pipes or obstructions. If you look at the actual mounting, you can see that impressed in the metal is another set of positioning points essentially. So I'm going to basically move this bracket over so the spare wheel sits on this side. The only thing I just need to watch out for when I get it back together is make sure the spare wheel doesn't touch off or get caught in these tyres here. So it's a bit of a trial and error piece here. Just got to go through and just see how I get on. So I'm going to position this over. It's actually good once in a while to actually get the spare wheel dropped off and out, just so you remember how it all works, and also make sure that all the bolts are free and you don't get caught on the side of the road with a jam nut or bolt. But okay, so we're going to position this and move this over. So this is the position of where I've decided to put the unit under the bed. You see here, it is off to slightly back, and the reason being for that is I need to have room for the pipe work. So there's 3 outputs there. Those 3 outputs will come out and they'll run up here over towards where those keys are, and then I'm going to cut through the unit there in the side to run the pipes up the side there. And then what I'll have to do is cut into this piece here for the actual hot air or the Caravan air to be recirculated back into the unit. And then I've got the power cable here, so I'll have to drill a hole through to the bottom to run that down. So I'm going to run the power cable down and along the floor, and the network cable will come up there as well, so the network cable will position into here. By positioning the air conditioning like that, I'm keeping the weight of the unit as central as possible, not off to the side, so that might help with a bit of the stability of the Caravan. Also enables me to be able to still use that side entrance into the actual bed space to be able to put in deck chairs, tables and bits and bobs like that. And I've also got the usage of this area here as well. So if I come back now and come up and show you outside, you'll see underneath I've now moved the spare wheel over, and this will help basically with the holes that are coming in. And then one of the major call outs I'd say as well is making sure that wherever you're going to cut into the wood underneath, make sure that you're not cutting near a joint that could cause issues. So the unit itself will be around about here where I'm cutting. It's well out of the way of the spare wheel now, so any of the liquids or fluids coming out the bottom of the unit are not going to get caught or drip onto the spare wheel and cause any issues. And also I'm cutting into the centre of a nice big bit of wood, and I'm not near any cables or wires or anything like that, so it's completely free. There's nothing there. It's the best place to do it. What I will do is leave the spare wheel holder or carriage cage down on the ground there, because I'm going to be drilling down into there with the saw. I don't want to accidentally come through with a drill and hit into the side of the tyre and burst my tyre, so I'm just going to leave that down like that. I've essentially pushed the spare wheel over. It's about 98 centimetres over into the Caravan now, and it completely misses all the pipes etc over there, so it's in a nice position there. Okay, so one of the things that you need to really think about when positioning this, and especially before you start cutting any holes within the Caravan, this is where I would like the unit to be approximately, okay? So, but what I need to take into account is the pipe work itself and how much the pipe bends. So the outlets here, the outlets for the cold air are on the same side as the intake for the hot air, okay? And I want it so that the hot air gets drawn through here and in, and the pipes run through. What I'd like to do is utilise this cupboard to run the pipes up and through. So what I need to take into account is how far of a distance that I need to go with the unit. Okay, so my aspiration is to be around about there, and I've checked the pipes, and the pipes bend to about 20 centimetres. So what this will allow me to do is run the 3 pipes, one up, one down slightly, and one further along and in, one in there, and up the cupboard. Now, if we step back through into the Caravan, you'll see some of the fittings that come with the kit here. So there's various different brackets. Now these brackets are for the plastic clips and some of the pipe work, etc. And some of the black clips are for the thicker black pipe. The key call out really is that the white pipe goes inside the black pipe. So you position through your white pipe through your black pipe, and it comes through into these brackets. These brackets here essentially are your corners that go through on the wood. Okay, so the blacker is the out piece here, and it goes through. When it comes to the top points here, these brackets here, these are the ones that actually go into the unit. So if you imagine this being in the cupboard, that would position on there. This is the bracket that goes on, and essentially use one of these plastic caps to cover off the edge. Your pipe goes in and your outlet goes through, and this would stick through from the other side. Okay, and then you'd essentially have this on this side potentially if you need it, depending on the distance, and if you don't, then you can go straight into this and clamp it through essentially, and that clips in, and that's your adjustment that you can flick through, etc. Okay, but your pipe, your cold air intake is going to come up into here. Okay, so this is what you're going to use, and as I said, this is your blocker. So this here, the aspiration, look at the distance here, is to have this up around there, in there. So I need to position this within the cupboard, so the pipe comes up. That's my blocker for the corner, and then this then essentially will sit in there, and this on the other side, and you can see it really is a firm fit. It's solid once that's in place. And then, as I said, these are the plastic retaining clips that you put round and you drill through, and just need to be very careful because the wood's not massively thick. You've probably got about 1 centimetre max, so you need to be very careful in terms of what screws you select and what you do in terms of the positioning, so that you don't cause any further damage by going too far through and making it look bad in terms of the job. So just going to show you some of the pipe work now. So the black pipe, you get a massive reel of it, as I mentioned earlier on. This black pipe is the outer, and essentially it clips in like that. Okay, and then this white pipe is the inner, and that goes in like that, and essentially having the 2 pipes together creates an element of insulation to make sure the cold air or the hot air remains either cold or hot. Okay, so I think the real call out here, and the most important part to this whole thing, is really planning it out, really sitting down and thinking, getting everything laid out, really contemplating before you cut any holes in your Caravan, how it's all going to be positioned through and how it's all going to work. So now we're going to do that. We're just going to measure it out. We're going to make sure that we've got the right position of everything, and then once I'm happy, we'll then start cutting into the Caravan. So now I'm going to do the first cut into the Caravan. Okay, so going through the planning phase, looking at all the different bits and bobs, etc. that are needed, and planning out where I'm going to position all of the air vents, and looking in to all the cupboards, making sure there's no pipe work, electrical cables, nothing in the way. No, not going to burst a gas pipe, going to burst a water pipe or anything like that. So the decision's been made that I'm going to basically go through and put the pipe in. Okay, then we'll know, once the pipe's down and through the bottom of the 3 pipes for the outlet, we'll know where the actual unit's going to finally sit, and before we start cutting into the floor. So we're going to make that first cut into the Caravan. It's going to be in this corner here, so wish me luck. So as you can see here, the 3 holes have been put in there. So the one to the left there is going to be the pipe that's going to run to the back of the Caravan. The one in the middle is going to be the centre of the Caravan, and the one at the far right there is going to be the one blowing into the front. Then we scroll up to the top, we'll see where the cabinet is, and you can see the electrical pipe work. So the pipe's going to run up the back there, and we're going to have to connect it through on either sides. The call out looking through the holes, so if you look down into those holes, is you'll see some of the heating pipes. So this is a wet heating system within the Caravan, so you have to be very careful in terms of where positioning, looking behind cupboards, making sure you're not hitting any cables or pipes, etc. You can see there's the reservoir there for the actual wet heating system as well. So coming through to the front of the Caravan here, so my next step here is going to be the first cut into the Caravan here, which is actually going into a nice facialing piece. Okay, so the risk here is when I go to cut it, you can have splinters and cracks happen. So this is going to be the hole that's going to be basically supporting this coming through, with that piece that we talked about earlier. It's going to be on the other side that's going to support it. Okay, so the tip here is to use masking tape. Okay, so if you use masking tape, I'm going to measure up and get it as central as possible so it looks nice and, you know, cosmetically looks nice. I've measured in the inside. I need it sort of the centre of the hole 6 inches down, so I'm going to find the centre point 6 inches down. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use masking tape. I'm going to cover over this area with masking tape, and then I'm going to use the cutter. And what the masking tape will do is it will help stop any splintering happening on the veneer, because the worst thing that can happen is this to splinter off and cause something look very unsightly. Okay, so as you see, I've put the masking tape up here to protect the wood, and I've done a few different measurements, etc. Ideally, you'd love to see the actual air vent in the middle here. It's not possible. And the reason why it's not possible is because the curtain sits in behind here. So there is a bit of an indent as such, as you can see. So just need to be wary and conscious of that. So I've masked it off, done the measurements where it sits. I believe this is the best point here. Gives us, you know, 6 inches from the roof down, which clears the actual bar inside for the coat rail there. So I'm going to just do a little cut. I'm going to do a little pilot hole first. I'm going to see where that positions myself on the inside bit there. Okay. So I'm going to come through here, and you see in here, that's where the pilot hole has come through there. Okay, so we can see, so it's nice in position, so I can have the pipe run along there and come back down there. Okay, so this was just a quick check to see, and I'm going to take into account as well the actual plastic piece here. So if you look here, the distance on that, so when this sits on the other side in here, you need to allow room for this plastic cap pit to sit. Okay, so just as I said, so important that you plan this out, really think about what you're doing before you start cutting. So we've positioned this here now, and as you can see, it's neatly in there. You can adjust left and right, open and close. So it's come across slightly because of the curtain behind. It's nicely positioned in there. If you come round, you'll see that T-piece with the cap on there. That's on the back, and that's how that fits in there. It's nice and secure. Now for the white pipe that you're going to be putting through to it, it's a 70mm cutter. When you're cutting this, you have to use a 65. So it's a 65 that fits this. And what we're going to move on to next is we're going to put in the next air duct in on here, and then one at the back there. So now we've put in the 3 vents at the top here. So I've got the one vent coming through at the front there, that's the other vent there, and now we're starting to work our way through this top part here. So you'll see I've already done the black pipe there, so there's the white pipe on the inner and the black, and that's the corner piece at the end. I haven't fixed them in terms of screws or done any of the sealant on it yet. I want to get all the pipe through first, get it all in place and make sure it's all positioned well and it all works fine, and then once I'm happy in terms of positioning, then I'll disconnect the pipes and then I'll do the sealant around them. As you see here, as I'm working through to stop the splintering and shearing of the actual laminate, covering off with masking tape on both sides. So what we're going to work through now is we're going to drill this through. This is just slightly off on an angle because it just needs sealing and putting in place. But yeah, there we are. And then we've got these pipe work there, look really well in terms of the colour, matches in nicely. Okay, so gone through cutting through the pipes and lining them all up. So I haven't done any sticky flex in terms of sealing the pipes yet, etc. It's just been going through and positioning all the pipes. So coming forward here, you'll see the air conditioning unit and where it's going to sit now. You see the pipes running through and where I had to cut a hole in the side there to essentially come up through into the unit. Now across the top here, you'll see the air conditioning pipe running across the top, and you'll see it coming into the vent there. So it comes through, and then you've got the air vent on that side, another air vent on that side, and then this is the main cupboard that has the majority of the bits and bobs coming up and through. So there are some fixings that I'm going to fit on. As I said, I want to seal the pipes first. These pipes will need to be attached to the sides that don't flap about. There's units there, or clips there basically, which are these clips which are going to fit but I need to do the sticker flex, the sealant through, and make sure that they're all sealed. But I now can see, now I've done the pipe work and can see the bends, etc., and what works and what doesn't work. That's the best position for me for the air conditioning unit. That maximises the actual space in the underbed area. What I do still need to do is I do need to put some vent holes in the side there. There's a big vent or there's some smaller vents. So I can either use 3 of these, basically, and put those in on the side to allow the air through, or I can use the bigger one. In terms of pipe left over, I still have a lot of black pipe. I seem to have more black pipe than I had white pipe. And then over here is the leftover of the white pipe. Had a bit of a bad cut. That was the one that was going across the top of the bed. It was a bit too short. And then what I've got at the back here is that air vent. So I can either use that air vent for under the bed, or I can use essentially these 3 vents here, essentially. Okay. I've got quite a few corners left, etc. In the end, I decided not to do the corners. I thought it'd be more complicated having the corners, and just better to have it like this. It may not look fantastic to others. I think it's fine. I still think we've got the maximising the space of the cupboard. I tried to make the pipes as short as possible. The longer the pipes, the more heat or cold, hot air or cold air you're going to lose, essentially. So that's how we've done so far. It's looking really good. Pleased with what's done so far. There's some bits left there that need to be pulled together. Okay, so now we've got this all connected up. I now know where I'm going to position the actual unit, and what I've actually done is got a black Sharpie pen and I've marked all the way around the unit where it's sat and where it's connected, essentially. What comes with the actual pack is a template, essentially. So I've moved the spare wheel over to the right hand side of the Caravan, and I'm going to use this template on the ground to position where the brackets go, etc. So this will tell you exactly where you need to cut in the floor. And I know underneath the Caravan now there's nothing, any obstructions or anything like that. So the plan is just to basically pull the unit out of the way. I can disconnect the pipes that I've pushed in here. Pull that out of the way, and you'll see where the box hole is there. And this is where I'm going to basically take down to the ground the actual unit itself. So in the next video you'll see the holes hopefully all cut it out, etc. So now we've cut the holes, so we left the template in place and cut with the jigsaw, used the 50mm cutter for that, and these have been put in now. These brackets are sturdy. The floor's actually a bit thicker than I expected actually, but the jigsaw got through it okay. And then in with the unit you get these plastic covers. These go into the 50mm hole down like that, and they aid with the drainage going through. And you put the strap through like that here, and that allows you to strap down the unit. So before progressing further on terms of getting it fitted, I want to just trial place it and make sure these brackets are in the right place and it fits okay. And then once I'm happy, I'll then have to drill one last hole through the floor to be able to connect the power cable through for the unit. So that's the unit in place now, so the straps come through. I'll tighten that up a bit more, but as you can see, the unit is absolutely rock solid on there, and that's not even with that tight, and the connectors are on there. So I'm really happy with that fitment. Now what I've decided I'm going to do, because I can see the wood and the actual insulation and onto the wood, I've decided that I'm just going to get a little bit of paint. I want to just basically try to seal the foam a little bit so that moisture from underneath the trailer, from spray, from driving, etc., doesn't get up into the insulation and cause the insulation to catch water and expand. So I'm going to try to do something with that, with a little bit of outdoor paint just on the inside, just to help with that situation. So I'm going to lift this back out now that I'm happy that it fits in nice and firmly. And then after I've got that painting done, I need to drill the hole for the power cable to drop through so I can run it under the Caravan to the main consumer unit. And then I also actually need to drill in the 3 holes for the intake coming in through the sideboard here. So I've decided, instead of using the big grill, I'm going to use the 3 smaller holes, drills. I'm going to drill those through and just make that so that the air can then get sucked back into the unit for cooling purposes. So far so good, really going well with this. So here from under the Caravan you can see the holes that have been cut through, and we started to apply the paint there just to help protect the insulation and stop moisture. So I'm going to grab the paintbrush and I'm going to do it from underneath as well, and then where there's the protection that's come away from the wood, as you can see like here, I'm going to essentially stick that back on and tape it back and get some gaffer tape like what's used, and basically just protect it. There's also the metal grills that are going to go on as well, which will help as well. So this is, I think, quite important really for making sure that the Caravan lasts and you're not going to have problems with moisture from spray getting up and underneath and in. So that's it completed now, all tidied up underneath. So there's a good coating of paint, is outdoor paint for wood. It's 10-year protection. Just put 1 coat on, that's all it really needs. But that will help protect the wood and everything there. What will go underneath here next is the metal grills, but we'll just let that dry out first. And I'm going to get on with fitting on the IR sensor now. So what I'm going on to next is the IR sensor. So the IR sensor has a temperature probe on it as well. Okay, this particular one has a round back. It's a 50mm hole. Okay, so I've got the 50mm cutter here, and it's got quite a thickish connector block that's going to go into the unit. It has a longish cable, and the plan is to basically put it in here. Now we've looked around the best place to put the Caravan based on the length, etc., and the choices really was either to put it here or put it up here near the original unit. The advantage to probably putting it up there next to the unit is that you have full control of the IR sensor based on the seats at the front there, but it'd be very difficult to use the remote control whilst in the bed to control the unit. And what I feel is that if I put it here, with the position of the IR sensor, you should be able to control it from the front with the remote on the seat on the cooker side of the Caravan, or even from the bed, because you should be able to bounce off the walls, etc., like a TV in a house. So this is where I'm going to position it. Now, because I'm cutting into a wooden facial again, I've done the masking tape, I've measured it up, so I've centralised it into here, so it's in the middle, and that's where I'm going to cut it. Okay. So sometimes when you even cut the holes and you follow the instructions for the sizes, the units don't quite fit. So what's really handy is having a Dremel with you, just to be able to use the sanding disc and make the hole that little bit bigger so it does fit the actual unit. So highly recommend the Dremel. This particular one's been brilliant, and it helps just make the holes that little bit bigger. So fitted through the sensor, it's just sat here nicely, looks neat, it's nice and square. And inside the cupboard there's actually a hole in the bottom corner here, so you can see down there it actually fitted out nicely, the cable came through. So that's all done and dusted there. Coming back here now, I'm going to do the actual inputs now here. So 1, 2, 3 holes, I'm going to cut through. I'm using for this one actually a 60 mil cutter. And what's going to be used on the outside there is that little plastic cap that's going to go over there. So cut that through, hole there, hole there, hole there, and that'll be the intake for the air conditioning unit. If it doesn't pull enough air through, I can always then cut it again and put in the bigger grill. So we're just going to do a bit of trial and error and see what it's like with these 3 holes. Okay, so we've done the front vents there. So we've got 3 vents down on the front, cut through. Coming through, so as I said, we'll see how that goes on. Okay, and then we've also got down here now the holes all figured around. We've got the cable through here, so we've got that nicely through there. And then basically all these holes are nicely painted and sealed, and we've got the white caps in there as well. So the very last hole I believe I need to do is the hole for the network cable that's going to run through underneath, and then also the hole for the power that I'm going to run through to the front there. So all coming along nicely, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift in the box and position it, get it all connected up, and then I'll know where to put the holes through for the cable, for the network cable and the power. So underneath the Caravan here now, putting in the metal grill to protect the hole. You'll see the plastic tubes that have come through. They don't need any protection, but the metal grill, I'm using some cable retaining clips because there's nothing in the box to be able to attach the metal grill to anything. So with the power cable running under the Caravan, I picked up these clips here and they actually work really well to actually secure this down. So I've just done this one here, and I'm going to do this other hole here with the same thing, same grill over with the 6 clips here. This just stops any rodents or anything in getting up and in. I might just put 1 extra in there, stop anything getting through. So now I've positioned the unit, and I've now done a bit of wiring. So I have got myself off of Amazon a waterproof plug connector. It just seemed the best and cheapest way to do it. So I've positioned that there, and I've ran the cable through. So I haven't cut any length off the actual cable. I've just drilled 2 holes through. 1 hole is for the actual power cable, which is the blue cable, and the other cable there with the little plastic sleeve on it, plug, is the network cable. So I've got the power network and then the IR sensor cable connected all through there now. Only thing disconnected is the actual pipe ducting, which I'm going to connect up to back into the unit now. Get those nicely firmly in there, and that will be that wired up. And then what I've got to do now is I've got to run the cabling under the Caravan along through the floor over to this hole here. So there's a hole, and I'm going to run the network cable up and the power cable up through there, and the network cable will run across and will connect into the black tin bus connector on the boiler there. That will enable the 2 to work together in tandem, and then I'll run enough cable up there ready for me to connect up to a consumer unit. So over here you'll see I've picked up a little consumer unit box. It is a waterproof one, but I'm going to have it inside the Caravan, and then I've got a RCD cut off there as well. So I'm going to connect that up as well. So that will be on its own separate box and unit for the air conditioning. What I've also ordered is for this particular boiler, there's a load monitor. So I've bought a load monitor that's coming through the post. I'm going to connect that up as well and run that to the power. so that the boiler and the heating element will be able to control the power and make sure that there's no surges within the Caravan. So a bit of an update here now. So moving along, so the wiring has all come through, etc. And I've had my electrician friend come out just to give essentially first look at the job that I need doing. He says it's about an hour's work for him to do, and I want it done by an electrician. I've decided that I'm not going to do it myself. I want this last bit done by him to make sure it's right. So removing the cover off the back of the fuse box, you see the mains, that's the mains coming in. So we're going to put a junction box in here and separate that out, and we're going to run a separate cable through into a consumer unit. Now originally I was going to use this consumer unit that's here that I got for Amazon. It was very cheap. He's actually made a good suggestion that actually you're probably better off getting a slightly bigger consumer unit to have the capability of having you know, an extra 2 or 3 trips in. So he's actually going to go source for me a bigger box that's going to sit in there. So there'll be one for the air conditioning, but then if I want to add additional sockets to the Caravan, anything else externally, internally, etc., having that bigger consumer unit secondary there will help out massively. Part and parcel was we went out and got this load monitor. So that's the load monitor that comes into the actual wires in, and we just tested it out there. That connects into the load monitoring port on the boiler. That controls basically if you switch on the microwave up there, and it will then automatically cut out the air conditioning and the central heating and in the hot water immersion to basically make sure you don't trip out the campsite system. So that's in there. So this will actually get wired through and it will sit in a junction box. So in the junction box, we're going to separate out the live. The live will go through this into the junction box, and it will then do the feed in terms of the power coming in. It will monitor the power going into both consumer units and basically automatically cut that system out there. So he's coming back out for me. He says about an hour and a half's work to do this, and he's going to source the 2 extra bits I need, which is a junction box and the bigger consumer unit. And then hopefully in the next video we'll have that all wired in, and you'll see that going, and there'll be power to the air conditioning so we can get that running and sorted. Okay, so we've had the electrician out now. They've come in, they've actually fitted it through now and wired it in. So down the bottom here there is a plastic cover that's missing off the back of the fuse box, which I'll fit. I've left it off just to demonstrate essentially what we've done. So we've spliced into the mains that's come through. We've put in a junction box here that separates it off into the 2 directions. The load sensor is on the live going in. Okay, so the load sensor, as I mentioned, it was the extra that I got. That plugs into the boiler onto this side here. In addition to the load sensor, I've also fitted another sensor, which is the outdoor temperature monitor, which I'll show you up on the screen in a minute. Here we have the larger consumer unit. So you'll see here there's the switch there, that's for the air conditioning, and then there's an extra space here, so you could get 3 of these in here. So if I want to put more plug sockets in, etc., I can. The next step down here, just to finish it off, will be just to fit the black cover, which is here. Okay, that covers up all the cables, etc. That just needs to go in the back there, but I've just left this all out so I could just demonstrate what it looks like there. So all nice, neat job there. Okay, so coming round up to here, I'll talk you through the actual unit itself now. So we have the remote control. Okay, so we can actually control the air conditioning, and I've fitted the sensor down the bottom here, and you can control the unit, turn it off. A few seconds later it will read the command and it will turn the air conditioning off. Okay, so the advantage to using the iNet system and the cable is that it's now all integrated into this unit here. So now I've got the internal temperature of the Caravan up the top here. I've then got the external temperature sensor connected here as well, and I can actually control the air conditioning off this unit. So if at the moment I've got it set to 5 degrees, and if I just click this button here, it will send a command signal through to the unit, and then in theory you should suddenly hear pop on the air conditioning. Okay, and it will blow through. So it takes about 2-3 minutes, but after 2 or 3 minutes it blows pretty much ice cold. There's actually a really good amount of air flowing through all three holes. I'm actually very surprised at how powerful the fans are. What you can do, so on this it will just do the climate control and run through and bring the Caravan down to temperature. I can turn it off here. On the control unit here, you can control it, you can set timers, you can set nighttime pieces, etc. There's a lot more flexibility within the actual controller to actually heat, cool down, etc, etc. So just flick it on like that, and I've got it to the chill, and you can set all the different modes, and you can set the fan speed, etc. So you can set it down to the lowest setting. It will take a few seconds, it registers the command, and then it brings the fans down, and you can hear. So it's blowing at a low state, and then at night time you can put the unit into nighttime mode, and it will then really cut it down. So yeah, it's really good. Really pleased with the fitting. I would recommend getting a qualified electrician to come out and do it. It only cost €100, and that included all the bits, including the extra box, etc, and switches, etc. It's well worth getting a qualified electrician to come out to do it. It's not expensive, and you know that bit has been done correctly. So I hope you've enjoyed the videos and the fittings. If there's any questions or queries that you might have about the fitting, drop a comment, and I'll see if I can answer that. Real big call out is the company PB Electrics in Mansfield. I'll drop a link in the description as well for them. They were the guys who supplied me the air conditioning unit. Really good guys to deal with, really friendly over email, really helpful, and really pleased with their service, and I'm really pleased with the fitting of the unit. I think it's worked out really well. Okay, thanks for taking the time to watch this.